August, 1969. While the world looked toward the moon and celebrated peace and music, a quiet darkness was growing in the hills above Los Angeles. It did not hide behind a mask. It carried a guitar. It spoke about love. And it promised a new world. This is the story of a family that helped bring an era to a sudden, unsettling halt. The case would not stop with a single crime. It would expose a cult, a dangerous belief system, and a leader who never personally carried out the attacks, yet reshaped how America understood criminal influence. Charles Manson is born in 1934. His early life is unstable, shaped by neglect, crime, and repeated stays in reform institutions. By adulthood, prison is no longer unfamiliar territory. It is part of his rhythm. When he is released in 1967, America is transforming. The counterculture movement is rising. Young people are rejecting old rules and searching for identity, freedom, and purpose. Manson does not present himself as a traditional leader. He offers acceptance. To some, it feels like home. The followers do not arrive all at once. They appear one by one, drawn in by chance meetings, shared music, and long conversations that seem to promise understanding. Most are young. Some have left home. Others are searching for purpose in a world that suddenly feels uncertain. Manson welcomes them without judgment. He listens carefully. He mirrors their thoughts. He tells them they are special, that society has misunderstood them, that together they can build something new. Soon, the group begins calling itself the family. It sounds harmless. Even warm. But the name carries weight. Because within the family, individuality slowly fades. They travel across California in old buses and worn cars, sleeping wherever they can. Days blend into nights filled with music, storytelling, and long philosophical discussions led by Manson. To outsiders, it looks like freedom. To those inside, it begins to feel like destiny. Manson rarely gives direct orders. Instead, he speaks in winding phrases that mix spiritual ideas, fragments of songs, and warnings about a collapsing society. His followers search for meaning in every word. And when people search long enough, they often find what they believe they are meant to hear. Gradually, distance grows between the group and the outside world. Family members give up possessions. Some cut ties with relatives. Outside opinions become distractions that must be ignored. The more isolated they become, the stronger the internal bond feels. By 1968, many settle at Spahn Ranch, an aging film set once used for Western movies. Weathered buildings creak in the wind. Empty landscapes stretch in every direction. It is quiet enough that the rest of the world begins to feel far away. Visitors later describe an unusual atmosphere there, part commune, part performance, part controlled environment. Manson positions himself not just as a leader, but as a guide. Over time, fewer people question him. Agreement becomes expected. Doubt becomes uncomfortable. Trust slowly transforms into obedience. And in that quiet corner outside Los Angeles, something subtle begins to change. When a single voice is repeated often enough, it can start to sound like truth. And when truth is no longer challenged, the boundary between belief and reality can begin to dissolve. Manson becomes fixated on a vision he calls Helter Skelter. He interprets songs as coded warnings and predicts a coming societal collapse. Court testimony later reveals that he convinced followers they had a role to play in this imagined future. They believed they were chosen, guided, protected. Yet investigators would find no evidence supporting the prophecy itself. Still, belief rarely depends on proof. One detail continues to puzzle historians. Manson insisted that the Beatles were sending him messages through their music. To the family, the songs were not entertainment. They were instructions. Then came the question that still echoes through the case. Why Cielo Drive? The home was linked to film director Roman Polanski, but it had once been connected to a music producer who dismissed Manson's ambitions. Was the target symbolic, personal, or simply convenient? Even decades later, the motive remains layered with uncertainty. By the summer of 1969, Los Angeles is alive with music, film, and possibility. But beneath the brightness, something far more unsettling is beginning to move. For months, Charles Manson has spoken about change, about collapse, about a future only his followers seem to understand. Then, in August, the language shifts. What had once sounded symbolic begins to take physical form. Late on the night of August 8, members of the family travel to a quiet hillside property at 10050 Cielo Drive. The home is known for its privacy, tucked away above the city lights. Inside are several guests, including actress Sharon Tate, who is expecting a child, along with friends visiting the residence. Authorities would later confirm that multiple lives were lost that night. The choice of location confuses investigators from the very beginning. There is no clear sign of robbery. No obvious personal dispute. Instead, the scene appears staged to send a message. Strange markings are discovered, seemingly placed to provoke fear and attract attention. Detectives struggle to understand what they mean, or who they are meant for. News travels quickly. By morning, radio stations interrupt regular programming. Newspapers rush out special editions. Los Angeles pauses. People begin checking their locks twice before going to bed. Porch lights remain on until sunrise. Ordinary nighttime sounds suddenly feel suspicious. A passing car slows, and curtains shift. Neighbors who once waved casually now study unfamiliar faces with quiet concern. The city senses that something is wrong, even if no one can yet explain why. Then, before fear has time to settle, another attack occurs the following night, this time in the Los Feliz neighborhood. Again, investigators encounter a scene that raises more questions than answers. The method is different, yet the emotional impact is unmistakably similar. At first, police treat the incidents as separate cases. Different victims. Different areas. No immediate connection. But detectives cannot ignore the growing unease spreading across the city. Two violent events in rapid succession begin to feel less like coincidence and more like intention. Behind the scenes, investigators start comparing details, searching for threads that might link the nights together. Something about the crime suggests planning. Something suggests direction. And slowly, an unsettling possibility emerges. These acts may not be random. They may be part of something larger. As summer continues, the optimism that once defined the era begins to dim. Los Angeles is no longer just a city of dreams. It has become a city waiting for answers. And somewhere beyond the glow of streetlights, the people responsible are still unknown. For now. Investigators struggled at first. Different neighborhoods. No clear motive. No obvious connection. Then small details began to align. Names resurfaced. Symbols repeated. Witnesses spoke. The trail led back to Spahn Ranch. What finally exposed the network was not a single breakthrough, but a chain of unrelated arrests and conversations that slowly revealed the larger picture. When one follower described the group's activities, the scale of Manson's influence became harder to ignore. The puzzle was assembling itself. Inside the courtroom, Charles Manson commands attention without speaking much at all. Observers describe his behavior as theatrical and unpredictable. Prosecutors argue that his authority over the group relied on psychological control and constant reinforcement. The jury agrees. In 1971, Manson receives a life sentence. The family fragments. Yet the story refuses to fade. Decades later, Manson dies in prison, but the case continues to shape discussions about coercion, group psychology, and criminal leadership. Was he a calculating architect? Or a figure who reflected the confusion of a changing era? The verdict closed the case. But not the questions. If you have been following this story and you are enjoying it, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another episode. The Manson family was stopped. Those responsible were convicted. Yet the shadow remains. It stands as a reminder of how persuasion can overpower reason, and how the search for belonging can sometimes lead people into dangerous territory. One question continues to unsettle historians and psychologists alike. How does one voice gain such influence over many? And if it happened once, could it happen again under different circumstances? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.